Tonight, 8 teams from the Northwest Conference will start with a clean slate. Within the group is the defending state champion, along with 6 other teams who made the playoffs in 2011. In the offseason, coaches were asked to predict how each team would finish in their respective conferences. Also, they chose a preseason offensive and defensive player of the year. Based on their voting, here is your 2012 Northwest Conference breakdown. Coming in at number 8 is Bishop McGuinness, a team that finished 2011 with just 2 wins. That coming on the heels of back-to-back 9-win seasons in Kernersville.
We talked about a lot of things, but one of the main things is reliability, dependability, obligation, fulfilling those things. You know, I don't know if it's something, you know, I sure hadn't figured it out. I've been a head coach for 20 years, and I have not figured out the magic formula, why some teams are just hold each other accountable and show up every day. But we've talked about not just being accountable, but holding the other guy accountable, you know, and it just seems like some teams have that kind of chemistry, magic, whatever you want to say. Maybe it's just winning. Maybe it's just having better players. I don't know what it is, but those years that you win, a little bit more on the line and guys are held accountable. But I think win, lose, or draw, you know, winning or losing ball games can't define you. But how you behave as a man and how you do every day and how you go to work every day, that's going to be the long-time message.
Coach Jones will have 2 quarterbacks at his disposal, in J.J. Dunn and Sean Homaker. Each will bring something different to the table.
You know, it's a luxury and it's a bit of a dilemma. You got to kind of decide. In the scrimmage the other night, we were definitely better in the single wing. We ran the football okay, but Sean threw it very well out of the single wing, which was a little surprising and not something we'd seen all summer. But I think he was 3 for 5 for 100 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I don't know if you can do any better than that. And so he was fantastic the other night. He's a bigger kid. He runs the ball pretty well. JJ, you know, is just kind of a gifted, natural passer. He's just got to cut out the turnovers, and that's really, as much as anything, you know, it's easy to say that what we'll do is whatever's working. I mean, that's kind of the philosophy, is to try to, you know, piece together something that works. It's funny, some people admire it and some people drives crazies, but, you know, we've never been a slave to dogma in the sense that we're going to do, you know, we'll run single wing, we'll do whatever it needs to be done. You know, it's not like one thing, and if you use 2 quarterbacks, I don't know why you can't. I think in this case we'll just try to find out whoever's hot and go with that. Greg had a solid year last year. I think he had 700 yards, about 10 or 11 touchdowns, which was very good for a sophomore. He will get the ball a lot. It'll be interesting. Joe McNamara was our leading rusher on the JV. He got hurt about the 4th or 5th game, and he was outstanding. And really, in the scrimmages, I would say he's been the leading rusher. Thomas Lamuralia, who's kind of a slash player for us, a return guy, plays receiver in our shotgun look, is really a good runner, and he ran the ball well the other day in the scrimmage. And, you know, kind of talking out loud so I don't forget it, because I sometimes forget that we need to get him the ball also. Tommy is more of a tight end type, and we tried to involve him a little bit more in the scrimmage the other day. Plays quarterback also. We were lucky this year. We've got 3 or 4 guys that can take snaps and do a pretty good job. But Tommy as a tight end is somebody we need to get more involved. He's got good hands, and he's kind of a prototype tight end for a small school. You know, he's like 6 foot 190, 6'1", 190, and, you know, can do some things catching the ball. Austin's had a great summer. He hurt his knee playing baseball early in the season, and we've been real worried about that. He went through rehab. Had to wear a brace and kind of skipped the surgery, but, you know, it turned out he's had knock on wood, he's had a good summer, and, you know, he's just tenacious. You know, he's probably one of the harder workers we have on our team, one of the toughest kids on our team. We've got a couple questions. You know, Nick Burns has always been very steady. JV player for 2 years as a snapper, very similar to Matt Urban, who we had a couple of years ago, who was very solid. And he's kind of that guy too. He's only about 200, but he's very consistent snapping the ball. And in our offense, it's just critical that you can snap it. And he's one of those guys, very solid. Sammy Parker on the right at right guard, and Nick Castellano are 2. You know, I want to say rookies. They've both been playing football. Sammy's a senior, and Nick's a junior, but they've both been in our program for, you know, their entire time. But this is their first time in prime time, so they got a little bit to prove. But they're hanging on to their position through the scrimmages, and hopefully they'll just keep getting better. Adam and Reed are really the keys there too. Adam's had a very good summer, and he's just so smart and works hard. We're just undersized, and we're undersized on both lines. But Coach Poore has a pretty good plan. I think, you know, we're slanting and attacking a little bit more this year, and I think we're going to have to with our personnel. We are just not big up front, but those 2, you know, Reed, of course, is the one exception. He's about 6'5", 250, and he gives us some physical presence, but the other guys are going to have to step up. Greg and Tommy Kesters, Greg Solomon and Tommy Kesters, both very experienced, been in our program. You know, they're both juniors, but they've been in our program all the way through and been kind of the leading tacklers on JV, and Greg was our leading tackler last year. I think it's probably our strength right now. It's hard to tell But those guys, Thomas Lammy-Raleigh was honorable mention all-conference last year. Sean Homaker's been with our program for 4 years and is also the quarterback. But Joe McNamara, who we said might be our best runner, and Austin Cancro, who I said was our toughest kid. Those four back there have been very solid all summer. Very tough spot for us right now. Got a couple of guys trying it out. Mitch Bullins has been kicking for us some. Logan Howard is a 10th grader who we're trying to keep on JV because he's an athlete that plays other positions. But, man, he's a great kicker, but he's young. And Mitch has improved. He's showing some improvement over the last couple of weeks. He punted well today in our punting session. So hopefully he'll be able to hang on to that job and we can keep Logan on the JV, which is our goal. Kicking game has to be better than it was last year. We struggled greatly in the kicking game. Overall team speed wasn't as good last year. I mean, that's pretty clear. We went from being very, very fast to very average. But, you can't have teams like that every year where you're super fast. But I think just team speed, pursuit, creating turnovers, if we can be that, and everybody says it, I'm sure every coach you've talked to said this, we just got to stay away from injuries. We're just thin like every, and I say it, we're not any different than, Mount Airy, the same way they got it at the end of the year. I mean, every 1A team, it's one or two guys, and then you're moving one guy to another position he's never played, and then you're just downhill rolling then.
Great job right here. No injuries. No injuries. Good in.
Last season, we 5-7. That's what we were. We had 3 losses that kind of stood out. We really harped on them all off season. We lost 3 ball games by combined 10 points. That would have put us at 8 wins had we been able to be mentally tough enough to win those games. We get in tough situations in years past, and last year as well, we tend to fold up a little bit. We've got to be a little more mentally tough, and that's something that's been a focal point for us in the offseason, and we've really focused on it this summer. I think they're coming around. It's still a work in progress, but I think we're getting there. A lot of people say, well, what do you want in a quarterback? And I think they expect you to say, well, I want a big cannon arm. I want a great big kid. Now, I'll take any size, but I want a cool customer. I want a kid who can stand in the fire and not get rattled. And I think that's the biggest thing that makes this offense go is if you can get a kid like that. Backup quarterback this year is John Luke, Charlieville. He came from the JV last year. Had a tough year. He's a big kid. He's a different type of quarterback than Garrett is. We return all of our skill kids predominantly from last season. So offensively, we've got, Matthew Hopkins is kind of the headliner. Everybody talks about Matthew. He was All-State last year. He's back. He's worked extremely hard in the offseason. We expect him to have big numbers again. Dustin Smith had over 50 catches last year. He had a great year. He's worked hard. He's more of a physical type kid. And then TJ Sonnenfrank is back, and he had 40 catches last year, and we expect him to have big numbers again. All 3 of those cats combined for 140, 50 catches last year. We return all those, so we're expecting big things. The beautiful thing about those 3 is that we don't have to spend a lot of time teaching our concepts. It's all fresh. They remember it for the most part. I can look at Garrett and he knows what I'm wanting to call, and he'll go ahead and get them in it, and they got it. They're all on the same page. And then overshadowed a little at times as our running back. People see us throw it a whole lot, but really and truly we were 45% last year. We still run the ball. Dylan. He's been a 2-year all-conference kid. He's got over 1,000 yards last year. We expect him to have over 1,000 this year. We're looking for big offensive production this year. Our center's back. Now, if you got to have one back, that's the guy you want back. He makes all our calls for us. Jordan Manuel, he does a great job up front. And then we've got 4 new ones. 2 of them are young. We got a left tackle's a sophomore, right tackle's a freshman. 2 guards are both juniors. So we're going to be all right. It's going to take a little longer for them to mesh a little, but we're going to be all right. Defensively, we're switching our scheme. We've been a 50 team in the past. We're switching to the 3-5-3, mainly because we don't have as many defensive linemen. But up front, we returned Seth Freeman, and then we got newcomer Chris Brown who play nose for us, and Cody Bennett has found himself a home at the other tackle. And then linebacker-wise, we returned Matthew Hancock, and then we've got some new guys in there, and Dustin Smith's playing outside linebacker, and Dylan Rogers will roll in there some. And then we got some new ones, 2 sophomores, Nathan Sands and Hunter Moorfield, and junior Justin Gravely play the other one. And then we go secondary-wise. We've got both corners are back, Eric Reeder and Shane Shelton. And then, of course, Matthew Hopkins and TJ Sonnenfrank will roll in there together at safety so they don't have to play the whole game both ways. Our biggest special teams deal, we've got a kicker. We feel like we found us a freshman kicker who's going to be pretty darn good. He's going to be really, really good down the road. But right now he's solid for us. 30 yards or so, he's pretty good. Extra points we feel confident about. He's going to punt for us too, kick off for us too. Nothing but a kicker. So he's bought into that role, and we're really excited about him.